right, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. I have a feeling there'll be more people that will be joining us, but I wanted to welcome you tonight to Zanesville Think Tank on Poverty's presentation, our conversation and our virtual meeting with Dignity Village in Portland, Oregon. We're really happy that so many people from our local communities, towns, and cities around Ohio that are joining us tonight who are interested in this particular example. We want to thank the city of Zanesville for this unique dialogue that we've been able to have. The think tank has been working with members of the Zanesville Homeless Advisory Group to find solutions and to be creative in how we solve or begin to solve the issue of homelessness and people being unsheltered in our local communities. If you haven't had a chance, the dignityvillage.org website really tells the story well of the history and the activity of Dignity Village. So we are so pleased that Lisa Larson is with us here tonight. What we want is to hear from people who are directly affected by the issues of poverty and homelessness and who have really engaged in problem solving and have creatively found a solution to the lack of safe, decent, affordable housing, which is a problem in all of our communities. So we really appreciate Lisa and members of the Dignity Village coming on tonight and to share with us. So I want to just share a little bit about Dignity Village, and then I will introduce Lisa, and she will take us on a virtual tour. Then we will have time for some question and answer with panelists from people who reside at Dignity Village in Portland. And then we will open it up to Q&A. So we are on Facebook Live and on Zoom. Hopefully others will be able to join us, and we are recording this. So for those that you know who aren't able to join, who thought they might be able to, they will be able to watch it later. So from the Dignity Village website, it says, during this time, which was the early 2000s, Dignity Village was democratically derived under the Fremont Bridge when Dignity was at its largest size ever, 80 plus people, a slow process that involved a lot of back and forth and which took the better part of a year. Our accomplishment was a first step on the road to legitimization that we were no longer just a bunch of homeless people, but a registered 501c3 nonprofit. Dignity Village is an intentional community for the homeless. We provide year-round shelter and safety off the street for up to 60 people every night. It sits on City of Portland-owned land and shares the lot with the municipal leaf composting facility. There are 43 basic dwelling structures hosting 50 to 60 residents in the village. The vast majority of the structures are made from recycled or reclaimed materials. Dignity Village has an incredibly low environmental impact as resource use is minimal. Dignity Village is a cross between a transitional housing option and an intentional community. Our city contract stipulates a limit of 2 years per person of residing at the village. However, we also recognize the value of longevity and leadership, as well as the challenges of Portland's affordable housing system. So extensions can be granted for villagers in leadership positions and those actively working to move out of Dignity Village. Living conditions are sparse at Dignity Village. Each resident comes with a bed and a propane heater. The dwellings don't have utility hookups in them. Few are connected to electricity. Requests for electricity must be approved by membership vote, typically for a medical exception. The individual units don't have running water. There are 2 shared sinks, 1 shower for the whole village, and several portable toilets. Villagers pay $50 per month in their contribution to the operating expenses, typically referred to as their insurance payment, and the rest of their operating budget comes from micro business revenues and private donations. Dignity Village covers all their operating expenses through this fund, including utilities such as electricity, internet, waste removal, portable toilet service, and water. They are the longest continually operating city-sanctioned homeless village in the United States. And just one other thing I wanted to share with you. When the villagers arrived at Sunderland Yard, which is their location, it was the start of winter and the beginning of a harsh season for the organization. Over the course of many years, and with the support of many friends and volunteers, we built the village to its current form. What started as tarps and tents gradually change to four-walled permanent tiny house structures. And we can get into more of the nuts and bolts. But at this time, I'd like to introduce to everyone our tour guide tonight, Lisa Larson, who is a resident of Dignity Village in Portland, Oregon. So Lisa, thank you so much for joining us, and take it away.
Mute. Thank you for having me. I'm sitting in my office, which is the truck, and guess what? It's just starting to rain here. So anyway, I will hopefully be taking their Dramamine, because as I walk around the village, I've realized I'm not real smooth walking. So let me get you switched around here. See if I can remember how to do this. And oh, there we are. Now I need to get my finger out of the way. Okay, well, welcome to the village. This is our entrance. So now you were saying, you made kind of the phrase that we tend to make, which is, I like to say that we are city sanctioned, self-supporting, and self-governing. And to our knowledge, we are the only one that can claim all three of those. And we've been doing it for almost 20 years, or I guess now over 20 years. But this is our entrance. Over here was one of our first structures, which is our security shack, which we have manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it is a straw bale construction. As I walk over here, I'll kind of show you what I mean. It doesn't work real great here in the Pacific Northwest because we're too wet in the winter, too dry in the summer. But you can see the width of the wall here, which is the width of the hay bale, and then framed in. And also, if you have any rats or any rodents, they love to make their homes in that. But we're probably going to have to demolish this building probably this next year. Next to it, there's my thumb again. Next to it is our green box, which is our corporate office. And I am sitting as vice chair this year, which I've been chairman here in the village, as chairperson, for about 4 years, off and on throughout the time I was here. I took a step back 2 years ago to be vice chair, trying to give myself some time. I want to go back to school, but anyway, it's not working. I'm working just as hard as vice chair as I did as chair. But anyway, this is our corporate office. This was also a building that we put up in a day. It came in panels, and it was a donation. And it was the first building Scott and I, which Scott is my husband, worked on with the village. The cool thing about the green box is the insulation in there is shredded denim. So, you know, as you're thinking about maybe building different structures, there's all sorts of material that you can use for insulation and building. And when we first started, we did use mainly recycled materials. Most of our buildings now, well, maybe about 50% of them are recycled still. And then the other ones have been built by other groups and brought them in. So as I turn around over here, we have our little community room there, which is like a little tiny meeting room for like our VIC, which I'll talk about later. And then when we had a counselor coming in on a weekly basis, that's where she would meet her clients. And then over here is our donations. And I've got a car pulling in. Donations is where everything comes in through. If somebody drops off a donation for us, it goes into this building, and then our donations coordinator logs it in. And if we happen to have a wish list personally, like if somebody needs a camp stove, and then if the camp stove comes in, then they will pass it on to whoever needs it. Or if you need food or toiletry items, all we have to do is go in, sign our name, and whatever we have in that building is ours. And what I really like about our donations is it doesn't just help us here in the village, but if somebody's still sleeping outside, or even if somebody's been kicked out of the village for whatever reason, they can still come in and have access to our donations, because we're not going to let people be cold or be hungry if we can at all help it. So coming straight back still from our entrance, those are our bathrooms, which I don't think we need to talk much about that. And this blue building over here, and I'll quit walking here in a minute, is our one and only shower. Now, we do have like 60 people here, and very rarely is the shower in, let me rephrase that. Very rarely is there a line for the shower. And right now the door is open, so anybody who needed a shower could come in and take a shower. It always seems like there's a line when I need a shower, though, of course. And right over here on the side of the shower, I don't know if you can see it, but right there is our sink area. And then right over on the other side of this little wall is our other sink. One has access to hot water, the other one is cold water only. And I don't know how well you guys can see what this conglomeration of a mess is over here, or organized chaos. But this is one way we make our money, which is recycling metals. And if we really work at it, we could probably make a couple $100 a month off of it. Yes, I'm doing a virtual tour. Scott's out there somewhere, I think. Yeah, he was. So anyway, interruptions, of course. Over here is our greenhouse slash bunkhouse. Now, first of all, the building has kind of unique little history. A gentleman had the desire to build a greenhouse in every country of the world. He got a grant for 50 of them in 50 different countries, and this is the United States greenhouse off that grant. It was also designed by the Da Vinci Art School, which is 8 to 12-year-old kids. And they even came out and helped build along with villagers. And I thought it was way cool because I used to be in construction and it was mainly girls who came out to build this. And then they painted the windows, and I don't know if I can get a good enough picture. The windows are supposed to be transitions in life. And of course, like most art, I don't really understand it, but it's what they came up with transitions in life. And then around on the outside, which it's really hard to see right now, but because we have it halfway covered up with a tarp, is a different painting of the same tree, different times of the year. And a past fellow villager painted it. Now, right now, it's got a tarp on it. That's because it's also our warming shelter during the winter months. So most years we can house about 10 more people in there for a temporary place for somebody who's out on the street. This year, due to COVID, we're trying to keep it limited to more about 6. I think we've gone over that a couple times this year. So going south here, let me walk up. I hope nobody's getting motion sick here. The wood pile is one of our big money makers. And there are wood piles all throughout the village right now. We get free wood off the Craigslist. Metro brings us in any down trees from the city, and then we cut it, split it, stack it, season it, and sell it. And we undersell most of our competitors in the area. And I think the most we've made is about 10 grand a year off the wood. On the average, I think we're about 4 to 6 grand a year on that. So as I kind of pan around here, and then I'll come back and show you a couple of houses. These are our tiny homes. Oh, and that's our little garden area too, right there. But we'll start over on this home. Ooh, probably making people sick again. This is probably our most unique designed house. The gentleman who designed it fought with the city for over a year before they allowed him to build it. He had spent so much time in the square box, he never wanted to spend another night in the square box again. He never did spend another night in the square box. He passed away, I think, about 8 years ago here in the village. And we called him the Gob, the grumpy old bastard. But he died with a smile on his face. And this was his family. We were his family. This was his life. He had a story for everything. But the fact that I got to know Fred, and we still believe his ghost is around here, it's just an honor to even be able to talk about him, because he became family to us too. And he was a big help to the newbies in the village. And he always had chocolate for the women. And even though he was a grumpy old guy, he was also a sweetheart too. So we started building, and I don't know how well you can see it, but like when they first started building structures, they built several of them, like the green and blue Seahawk color house back here, all kind of square, flat roof ones. And that one right back there is a dorm. It's got 2 doors on it. But as time has gone on, oh, and I should tell you, between Agape Church and the fire marshal, they came in and built 17 structures like that one back there in a day and a half. They brought in like 200 people and built them, and those were all out of recycled materials. The village was so poor at that point, they even put nails on top of the wood stove, used nails, and straightened them back out and reused them.
Mhm.
But then we started getting groups that wanted to build for us. And so right across the way here, the little tiny one, number 41, was done by Oregon Episcopal. And Oregon Episcopal, it was the Morissette boys, and the oldest Morissette boy and his senior class built this one. And Dennis, I'm about to stand by your house. just real quick. So that was the first son. This is the second son's, and that is the third son's. Okay, I'm done scanning. And the fourth son brought in his class project, and it's done at the other end. And probably some of the best built houses we have here in the village. And then we have number 37 over here, the little pink house. I think I'm even getting motion sick watching the little screen. This house was done by Benson Tech. And this is the first house that was brought in on the back of a flatbed. It was also the first house that has been built for solar, where you can go in and turn on a light switch. Most of us that have solar, at least I used to have to hook on little wires to each other to make my solar work. But now it is, now I just kind of flip on the switches on the light. But anyway, that was the first house built for solar. And then we have this house that was done by Portland Community College. And that was a social justice class project. And that's the second house she'd ever built. Before the first house, which is here in the village, all she'd ever built was birdhouses. But they did a really fine job on this one. And I like the individuality of this one, because if you can see, they even put dragonflies on the top there. And the lady who actually lived in this house to begin with, a good friend of mine, loved dragonflies, so they built the house for her.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello, Dennis.
Do you have anything to do with the neighborhood anymore? Are you doing anything?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
I'm still on the board.
Okay.
So anyway, sorry, more interruptions. Yep, and there's my fingers again, and there goes Scott. He'll be joining us later. We have several houses built with this design. And these were all built for solar in mind, and we're working with the solar group right now, trying to get solar here in the village for everybody, which I'm all excited about. And here comes Scott again. And then back here, we have a couple more unique houses. We have the barn over there, and then that one is basically a tough shed redesigned. And then, excuse the mess, but this is mine and Scott's, and we're still in the process of trying to move and get everything organized. And
I can almost stand up in the loft upstairs.
But we were tired of living there because we had to live in our bedroom. Well, here we have an upstairs for our bedroom. We have a downstairs, like a little family room, and then we have a kitchen area. Just ignore the mess. So then coming back around, and the gentleman ahead of us, wave, Dennis. Hello. This is Dennis. He brings and delivers food from New Seasons every week to us. And
He's also part of the Kelly Neighborhood Association.
Just for 10 years.
yeah, just for 10 years.
Not very long, yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dennis.
He's a big supporter of the village.
Okay, so now I'm walking back up to the central part. Want to find out if there's anything good over there?
Yeah, I will. What do you want?
Fruit. And in fact, if he's still here, I'll kind of show you what he brings in for us. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is the type of food he brings for us. And brings milk, fresh vegetables, fresh milk, fruit, sometimes some goodies, bread. Grab some strawberries to me.
Was it great time?
Sure. Okay, so that was our donation. And there's all the bread that he brings. Bags and bags and bags of bread.
And we go into common and I check to see how much bread you have.
So now I'm walking into our common room and I need to mention to people that I'm bringing in a tour. So I am bringing in a virtual tour. If you don't want to be part of it, just kind of turn away and I won't be mentioning names or anything. Okay. Anybody wanting to hide? Or are you all good? Okay, and yeah, you all have masks, which is really kind of messy in here. But just about all the food that's in here is for grabs, so people can come in, grab food. This is kind of also our makeshift kitchen with microwaves and hot plates, coffee pots, and that type of stuff. But this is our central hub of the village, our meeting room, our family room, overflow for the warming shelter if we need it. And it is the only building that has got wood heat. And it is really warm in here, especially after being outside. Thanks, guys. Come on, baby girl. Come on, Jello. Hurry it up. Okay, so over here is our working wood pile, which is kind of covered up. You can't hardly see it, but this is where we do our splitting and cutting of the wood. Back behind that, the building with the red door is our computer lab. So not just us has access to the computer lab, but anybody who's still living outside can come in and access our computers. And then we do believe in making our places individual as we possibly can. So one lady who actually is in stage 4 breast cancer wrote this on the back of her house. And I guess you can see that one too. Yeah, there we go. And then one more, and of course my finger's in the way again. And I just had something come up on my phone, so, oh, I know what it was. I hit my volume. Okay, so I think everybody saw that. And I'm just going to kind of scan back here because we do have some hoarding issues and it's almost embarrassing to do a tour at this point. But like right through here, she's got a hoarding issue and we've got more as we go back.
Yeah, no, we're okay with that, Lisa. You know, I mean, we know people are facing a lot of challenges.
Well, you know, I believe the homeless have even more hoarding issues than most. Because when you're out on the streets, you're in a take mode. Everything's getting ruined. Everything's being stolen. The police are coming in and doing sweeps. And so if you find something, you take it. But here in the village, you're not needing to do that anymore.
But it's hard for people to get out of the habit.
Yeah, it's hard for people to get out of the habit.
Myself included.
Yeah,
makes perfect
that's
sense.
Part of our problem too.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's pretty much the virtual tour part.
Okay.
And then I guess I'll go back out to the truck.
All right.
And get out of the noise. And
will Scott be joining you?
Yes, Scott is right here with me.
Okay.
In fact, he'll take off his hood when we get to the truck.
Sure. Lisa, that was amazing. I mean, just having that visual, it changes everything, right? Sometimes, you know, once you see it, then you can believe it. And, you know, I think we'll all hold the visual, you know, in our hearts and minds for a long time. And, you know, with us being in Ohio, with winter and, the temperatures, and knowing that so many of our brothers and sisters don't have a place to go tonight, this really is helpful to us to think about, what we could perhaps work towards in partnership with our local communities. I wanted to share one thing from the website. It says, what happens when you have a partner who is also homeless, or a pet who you rely on for companionship, protection, or support for a disability? In a typical facilities-based shelter, you're not permitted to stay with your partner or your pet. At Dignity Village, we welcome couples and pets and foster the dignity that comes with making your own choice about who stays with you. And I really think that speaks volumes. I mean, your name is so perfect about Dignity Village. And that's what I think we're all striving for, is to find solutions that allow people to be adults and make their own decisions, and then also to live with dignity and to be able to make their own adult choices. Lisa, would you be willing to share a little bit about your story, about how you ended up at, or how you chose to be at Dignity? And you can say, no, Lisa, I pass. I'd rather not. That's fine. And Scott, the same with you. But I think it might help people to understand, so many of the people that are on this call are, very concerned about people that are, trying to find shelter, who are trying to find safe, decent, affordable housing, and anything that you might be comfortable with sharing with, we'd appreciate.
Well, first of all, I would say, if there are 50 people without a house in a room, there are going to be 50 different stories.
And 50 different solutions.
So my story, to start off with, I was first married young, had 2 kids, had the 2 cars, 2 jobs, 2 kids. 2 cars, 2 kids, 2 dogs, 2 cats. We were kind of trying to live the American dream. But he was always emotionally, and towards the end of our time together, he became physically abusive. But I'd met this guy who I thought was my best friend, and he offered me a place to stay, and I thought my husband was abusive. This guy was was just beyond. Beat me up several times, tried killing me a couple of times, including taking a double-barreled shotgun to my head and pulling the trigger. Thank God there was only 1 cartridge in it, and he had never shot the gun before.
He pulled the wrong trigger, or the right trigger.
Right, depending on point of view.
Mm-hmm.
But in the process of all this, I was working through a temp service and met Scott the night of July 4th, so actually July 5th,
yeah,
on our way back from doing a security job at a rodeo. And he had told me that if I needed help to get out of that relationship, he was there for me. And I had tried escaping numerous times. And finally, how I was able to finally escape was to put myself homeless. And that was with the help of Scott and his brother, who found a house for me to stay in that had heat.
And we broke into it, and so she could stay warm for a week. And I moved with her 2 weeks after that. I had to finish the job I was doing. But after that, I moved with her. And the rest is her story.
And we spent about 2 years sleeping in abandoned houses. Got a couple of criminal trespasses for that. Spent
14
days in jail. And then we started camping in the local area of Milwaukee, which is just south of Portland. And we finally was getting rousted out of the one campsite that we were in, and had no place else that we could figure out on going. But when Scott had done his 14 days in jail, he had heard about the village. Now, I remember Dignity Village when I was at home with my kids.
The shopping cart parades on TV when I was watching the news before I went to work, yeah.
And told my kids, why can't those homeless people get off their butts and do something? Mm-hmm. Well, Dignity Village ended up being our answer. Mm-hmm. And we had said when we got out here 6 months, get in, get on our feet, don't get involved, and get out.
And then we got involved.
Well, we've been here now 11 years. Just about our anniversary for 11 years.
Congratulations.
And we did get involved, and it's been the best thing for us. After going through the abuse I went through, and then being homeless for 2 years, and everything Scott went through, we were both broken when we got here. Totally mentally, emotionally, physically broken when we got here. There's no way I would have been able to do a virtual tour, let alone talk to people.
Yeah.
I've thought about it when I was being trained for security here at Dignity. I was set up by the guy who was training me, and there was another very shy gentleman on security shift with us. I wouldn't even ask him a question. I was scared to death to ask him a question. And now I talk to anybody and everybody, and you can't shut me up. So Dignity Village has done a whole lot for us. I know I'm a better person than I ever have been. I'm happier now than I've ever been. And it's a lot because, of course, myself, I have to give myself that much
I didn't do
credit.
anything.
He did a lot, but then
I was
the
too busy
village,
working on myself.
the village giving us both the self-confidence and the time to heal
Right.
Yes,
has been a huge part.
yes, well
Of
said.
course, we have to talk about the dog in the back seat,
she's
which
sleeping, yeah.
she's sleeping. She's been a huge part of the healing process too. And we
Yes.
adopted her after we got here.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Lisa. Thank you. You're very brave. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think that we can, so many of us, we can resonate with what you're saying, and to have a safe place to be where you, like you say, you can get a break and put yourself back together and then form a community is, I think, exactly what we're all hoping for. Scott, two things, if you don't mind. You mentioned the shopping cart parades. I'm not sure everyone knows about that. And then if you would be willing to share a little bit about your story.
Well, the shopping cart parade is what put the Dignity Village on the map, actually. What happened is they started downtown. They formed Dignity Village under the Morrison Bridge in the year 2000. And they had what we call an out of the doorways movement, because at the time, Portland had the no sit, no lie law, where you couldn't sleep in the doorway, you couldn't stop on the sidewalk for any length of time. And what they would do at night is the people, they would walk around downtown and they would wake up everybody who was sleeping and tell them to move. And so all night long they got woke up and they told them to move, woke up and told them to move, woke up and told them to move. And so what they did was some guy got a bullhorn and went out of the doorways, just band together, let's form up, let's be seen instead of being invisible. And of course, that is what started the shop cart parades, because we'd camp in a big area and then the cops would come and move us, and then they'd load up the shopping carts and off we go. And that made the national news, which was a big help in getting the village started. And throughout that process, we got here. And that's what I remember seeing on TV before I go to work. I worked 2 jobs. I was a pipe layer. I was this, I was that, whatever I could do in my former life, I call it. But I got a divorce and jumped straight into the bottom of the cesspool, right straight to the deep end. And then I found Lisa, and we've been crawling out ever since. When I first got to the village, I just started hearing voices in my head. And I still hear voices. And so I didn't know what was going on. And I was like, I didn't know what to think or what to do or anything. I thank the village for saving my butt. I really do, because it did. It was here for me when I really needed it. And throughout the course of being in the village, I've gotten a handle on what's going on in my head. I've been off meds now for almost 6 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think nothing. I'm as normal as I ever was, maybe more so. And so it's the village is a big part of making me who I am.
Oh, that's fantastic. Gosh, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that point that you made, so many times because people that are experiencing homelessness, if they're sleeping outside or doorways or, in their own little encampments, because there is no place for them to go, the police are charged or told to, just keep people moving, right? And, I think that's happening everywhere. That's happening where we are. So for people to find the courage and the strength to say, we're not going to be invisible anymore. When we get shuffled along, then we're going to put all our stuff in a shopping cart and we're going to go parade and say that we're still here, right?
Civil disobedience is actually how the village started. Guaranteed by the Constitution, we have the right to rise up and say, no, we don't like this. And that's what we did.
Yep. Dignity of the human person, right? And we all deserve, it's a human right to have a safe, right. I know we have a son-in-law that lives in Portland, and I am astounded by the cost of living there. Can you speak to that a little bit about, let's say that you two, want to go out and get, your own apartment or your own house or whatever. What's the price tag? What are we talking about?
We're talking for Lisa and myself at least $1,200 a month for rent, and then utilities above that. So it's just it's ridiculous. I mean, you cannot. On minimum wage, I think people going to school and in college, and those kids, there's a lot of those people sleeping on the street also in cars and vans around the city, and probably in your city also. Yes. Because the school is so expensive, and yet with the housing costs and everything the way they are, it's about time maybe we all rose up. I'm very
Mhm.
anti-government, excuse me.
Yeah, or have a government that works for us and with us, right? And that's what,
Absolutely, rather than against us, yeah.
and I think, that's another thing that you all have showcased is that, you ended up working with the city of Portland and now you have this place, right? And you have worked out all the details and you are a model that can be replicated anywhere, right?
Anywhere.
And Lisa, shared with us that you all would be willing to share your governing documents with us. I
Absolutely.
do want to open it up, to, I know people have 1,000,001 questions because, we just get, told that this isn't possible. And what I love about Dignity Village is that I think I heard that in the first day you had just by getting, going to the junkyard and getting materials that you built 17 structures in one day. And, I think we can often get so hung up on it's like, well, those tiny houses, they're so expensive. We could never do that. Right. It's just like
Basically what we have is 4 walls, a window, a door, and a roof. Everything else, yeah.
Yep.
Porch.
Yep.
But
And that's
everything else we do.
And that's what we've also learned is that, when people have been traumatized by having to live in these dangerous situations, having the safety of being able to lock the door and having a place that's your own is seriously important for people to recover, to mend. And like you say, Scott, with your own mental health, how far you've been able to come because you have a safe place to be.
That's part of it, yeah. And in understanding life and in understanding village.
Yes, yes. So if you don't mind, we're at 6:36. We can go up to 7:30 if we need to, or we won't take that much of your time. So if people have questions, if you could put them in the chat, I think maybe that would be the easiest way to get people's questions addressed. And we'll watch that chat and make sure we'll get to as many of the questions as we can. I think we have about 35 people on just on the Zoom. I don't know how many on Facebook Live, but we really want to invite people to submit their questions because we really want to understand what you've accomplished. So the first one says, can you get mail at
Yes.
Dignity? Yes. How does that work, Scott?
We have a mailbox out front, and we have a elected mailman in the village, and he gets it from the box and delivers it to the.
Wonderful. Perfect. And how about security? How do you deal with security?
Everybody signs in the guard check. The guard check is manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Everybody signs in. We know who's here. And it's not so that we're trying to keep track of people or anything like that. It's just so we know who's in the village in case something happens.
Yeah.
We know where to go for whoever's pets are in there. So everybody checks in with security.
Great.
So fire safety.
Right, at night.
In case a fire does break out, that way we know who's in the village, who's not.
Yeah.
Now, Scott happens to be head of security this year.
And we are not a police force.
Mm-hmm.
We do not enforce the rules. We just keep the peace.
Yes,
And if
that's
something
wonderful.
does happen, there's a conflict between a couple people, an IR, which is an incident report, is written.
Mhm.
Our security coordinator,
Mediates if possible. And if not,
Mediation.
then we take it to council.
and then
Yes.
council makes the decision on whether the person is guilty as charged,
Mhm.
and then what sort of consequences that they will have
Yeah,
based on what their actions were.
Right.
Yeah.
That can be anything. We have even put people in the room for an hour and shut the door
Mhm.
and then don't come out and tell your friends.
yeah.
That doesn't work.
But it's beautiful that you don't, I mean, your policy isn't called 911, right? Let's get the cops in here.
No.
You deal with
That's
it
the last resort,
yourselves.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. And I think, so often when we, think about these kinds of things, like, well, there must be murder and mayhem. If you have all those people living together, it's just got to be murder and mayhem. And
It's
that's
like high school on steroids.
yeah,
Remember
that's
high
not what
school,
you're
how it
dealing
was
with.
The cliques and all of that thing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like high school on steroids. Yeah.
But you have
We
a
are
governing
deemed-
body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. And real quick, we are deemed as one of the safest neighborhoods in Portland for
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yoo-hoo.
Because we don't call the police. We deal with everything internally.
Yeah, see, and that's adults being adults, right? Working
Right,
things
yeah.
out, right?
It can happen. That is possible.
Yeah, but you have a community, right? And you build trust, you take care of one another, you look out for one another.
Right. And we
And
are a
you're-
community. Just as you were saying, we had a fire in our place several years back.
Uh-huh.
And it didn't really hurt us or our animals or anything. Everybody's okay. But before the fire department even left, we had another place to stay. We had
Mhm.
clothes, we had
Yeah.
blankets, and half the village was looking for our cat. And
Yeah.
nobody liked us at that point.
Uh-huh.
But yet they were still there for us.
Yes.
So
No,
that's a true community.
That's right. That's right. And you've learned how to do it. Another question is, how big is I don't know if acreage or whatever, and what's the size of what you have?
just under 2 acres.
2 acres. Okay. Okay,
And
great.
there's
And
60 people max.
they're what?
60 people max.
60
70
max.
in the winter when our warming shelter's open.
Yep. And your location, like you're not right downtown Portland. Can you describe your location?
You can be here, yeah.
We when we were first coming out to the village to get on our wait list, we were thinking, where in the heck are we going?
Yeah, we used to on this bus and looking around. It was an industrial area, and then it went to fields, and we're going, oh my God! And we're still not there yet, you know.
Yeah.
But we're way out here where nobody is. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But we do have neighbors. One neighbor is medium security prison, and they're really quiet neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
We
2 incidences.
We have a moving company on the other side. We have a leaf composting back behind us.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have one neighbor that lives on the street, an
We do
actual
have
house.
a residential neighbor, yes.
And they're proud to be our
They
neighbors.
love us to be here, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also you are near the airport, or you have
On the west
airplane?
end of it, yeah,
Yeah. Is that correct?
Yes.
the west end, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And another thing, because my husband and I visited the village a couple of summers ago and took the tour, and we're just floored, just so impressed with what you all have done. But there also is a city bus stop right there too, correct? I mean, people can use that transportation?
Yeah, in front of the village is to drop off only, because that's the end of the line. The next stop down the block in front of the prison is the first stop of the line. That's where everybody gets on the bus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But we
yeah,
get off the bus right here.
that's wonderful. And Lisa, I believe you shared with us that a lot of people do have cars that live at the village, so.
Yes, we probably have more cars now than we've ever had here at the village.
Mhm.
So, you know, we tend to be some of the taxi people around here.
Yeah.
But there is the bus system. But when Scott and I first got here, because we are 40 minutes from downtown by bus,
Right.
we are 3.5 miles from the nearest grocery store, 1.5 miles from the nearest convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when we first started
Yeah, we
out
walked
here,
9 miles round trip to go get groceries.
Wow.
When we first got here, yeah.
Oh, that's
Just
right.
Safeway over there,
yeah.
Because we
Mm.
walked to the airport to catch Max, and you had to go down Marine Drive. And anyways, it's 6-8 miles there one way.
My
And
goodness.
so, yeah, it was.
My goodness. Mm. So,
That's
yeah,
'cause we
so
didn't know
that,
there was another store closer, but you know, we found that out afterwards.
yeah.
But you know, yeah, it's what, you know, you do what you
Well,
have to do.
That gives us a really good context, because so often, you know, when we talk, you know, we have good relationships with the cities where we're working, and, you know, talking about that, you know, and that context of where the site is really good. So who owns the ground that Dignity
The city
Village is
does.
on? The city owns it.
City of
Okay.
Portland.
Okay.
It's
And
part
then,
of the leaf composting facility.
okay. And can you, I think it's on your website, but, you know, I think what you said, Scott, you know, was that the people that were experiencing homelessness stood up and said, you know, we demand a place to be, right? But can you speak to a little
Movie,
bit
is
of,
what- yeah.
yeah, we're not moving, we're not hiding. We want shelter. But can you talk a little bit about the relationship that you have with the city, and how you maintain that relationship with the city of Portland?
We're very, very quiet out here. We don't say much. But we have a very good relationship with the city, actually. There's nothing that we can't talk to someone about. We have a liaison that deals directly with them. And so I would like to say we have a really good relationship with the
Yeah.
city. We have a better relationship with the fire department, who has to come through every once in a while, make sure we're doing what we're supposed to here. So we see
Right.
them more than we see anybody else. But
Right, and following code and all that kind of
Right,
stuff,
right,
so they're not
right.
worried about you. Yeah.
fire lanes clear and making sure that they can get, yeah, that sort of thing.
You know, go ahead,
We
Lisa.
haven't always had a great relationship with the city.
Mm-hmm.
And with, they really didn't want us out here. And I'm talking us as the old
The
villagers.
village, yeah.
But as time has gone on and we became a model, we're now kind of a feather in their cap.
Yeah,
And
they like us here right now. So
Yeah, I
but
saw on
it's
your,
a process, you know, so.
of course, yeah, I mean, you have to build those relationships, and so you've built trust because you have such a smooth, beautiful operation. I saw on your website, it says most of our structures were built with donations, either financial or building materials. The
Mhm.
city of Portland owns the land we're on, and we have a contract with the city to manage a transitional housing campground
Right.
per a specific statute in Oregon law. finally, that same Oregon statute allowed Dignity Village to be sited where we are despite the zoning. So I think
Right.
that's another really important point, because so often, it's like, well,
That law
it's
was
not
in place
zoned.
when the village first started.
Mm-hmm.
That law had to be put in place before we could be here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So that's the other thing that we've learned is that, well, yes, there are laws and ordinances and that, but when we use our voices to say what we need, those things are all made, those are all decisions made by people and other kinds of
reasonable
decisions.
request is rarely turned down.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep. That's beautiful. Another question.
I'll even put a little footnote. I was
Mhm.
just on a Zoom meeting, a week and a half ago with our city planning and sustainability committee.
Mhm.
And now I'm going to be speaking in front of the city council here shortly.
And
Woohoo!
Oh, anyway, changing the rules about how the village, how they can have more villages within the city,
Mhm.
easier to
get
set up,
started, yeah.
making congregate living situations easier, and more available spots for these different setups.
Because
So
believe it
Yes.
or not, people helping people works.
Yeah, it does. We believe that too. I have a question here. How is addiction and mental health addressed, and what about drug use in the village?
Well, I would like to say there is no drug use, but I can't honestly say that because I know there is. I mean,
Mhm.
a lot of people smoke marijuana in the village. It is legal for recreational use here in the state, and so we can't really prevent that.
Right,
As
it's the
far as
law.
other drugs, they're everywhere. So why wouldn't they be in the village? But if someone is acting out and breaking rule 4, which is no conscious destructive behavior, we have counselors that come in that they can talk to. The counselors helps me; they can help them if they're willing. If
Yeah.
they're not willing, then the behavior continues, and eventually we tell them they have to leave.
Right.
But we kind of ignore it, but we don't.
Mhm.
we've been told by the city attorneys that as long as it's happening behind closed doors, there's nothing we can really do
Right.
about it.
Mhm.
But we do have number 3 rule, which is out of our 5 basics, which I hadn't even gone over, is no drug or alcohol or paraphernalia use here in the village.
Within a 1-block radius.
So everyone can go out and they can use by our rule and then come back.
Right. We're
But-
just required at that point to go to your structure and just stay there until you sober up. You can come out to get something to eat or go to the restroom, but
Yeah.
basically you're required to stay in your structure after that.
Mhm.
And for most people, if they did not have a drug or alcohol problem before they hit the streets, by the time they find us, they do.
Mhm.
But like with us, we don't need to run from reality anymore.
Right.
When you're out
Mhm.
on the street, you are running from reality. You don't want to be out there. You don't want
Right.
to be, you want to be numb. So
Right.
And so you
right.
use because
Yeah,
it numbs
right.
you.
Yes.
But the village has filled that void in us that drinking used to and drugs used to, and so we just don't do it anymore. We never
Mhm.
really quit, but we just
Mhm.
don't do it anymore.
Yeah, that's powerful, Scott. That just speaks volumes that, when you're unsafe, when you're being vilified, stigmatized, criminalized, right? What are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to get on your feet? And then once you find a place of belonging where you where you have a voice and you have a say in how you live as a community, things start to change. So we're strong believers in that housing first model. You can't ask people to change or, go do this and do that until there's a safe place to be.
When they don't have the means to anyway.
Yeah, right.
It's all around them. If you're inundated with it from all sides,
Mhm.
you're going to buckle in and use or drink anyway.
Mhm.
So you need to get out of that situation in the place where you're, you're right. Yeah.
Right. Can you also say again how many houses are there in the
we have
village?
43 structures to live in, and then we have several other buildings, the
Like the commons,
the
the office,
Uh-huh.
shower, the whatever.
Yep. Okay. Another question I see is, what would you say should be the first steps to beginning the process of creating something like this where we are?
Find where you want to create it. And I would say talk to the neighborhood association first, and then the city, or the city and then the neighborhood. Get the neighborhood involved. Nothing about them without them. So
Yes,
get the
amen.
neighborhood involved. Have it be their village, the one that they want.
I appreciate
because
that.
everybody wants to help. People just don't know how.
Right. That's
if
right.
we had a village in every neighborhood in the country, there wouldn't be any homeless.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, we really follow that too. Nothing about us without us. So, like we said, a bunch of really nice, well-intentioned people that want to, create something. It's like, no, we need the voices of the people that are directly affected and empower them to say, this is what this needs to look like. And we've got a wonderful model here, but the ones that we might create here in Ohio could look different based on the people that are
Absolutely.
going to be
It
housed
should
there.
look different. Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be their village, whatever they, yeah. And your
Right.
natural leaders will rise up out of the people that come in.
Yes. Can you talk about are people that are staying or living at the village, are some of the people employed at the village or outside of the village?
We work hours in the village for our rent. That's the only way we are employed by the village. Any other employment is outside the village.
And a lot of people here do have outside jobs.
Yeah.
If nothing else, there's a group of like 15 of the villagers that go to Thursday night motocross and safety flag out of the village or out at the track.
12 years, start my season this year, 12 years.
All right. Yes.
And then Scott and I have a small business that we set up and tear down at Saturday Market. And we employ several people from the village to go out there. It's only a weekend gig. And of course, this year hasn't hardly worked, but it's a job and it actually pays pretty good money for us.
We could live on the outside in low-income housing from the market, working at the market.
And we've had other people that are completely 40-hour week type jobs here, but something's happened and they lost their home. We had one lady who owned her own business and her partner took off with all the money, so she ended up having to start over again. We have a lot of people here that are on disability or security.
Yeah, SSI, SSD, and those normally go real quick into low-income housing. 30 where they pay 30% of their income for rent there. Excuse me. Most people in SSI or SSD go to there.
Right. And in places where we are, I mean, there's just, the people wait years, to get into public housing or get a voucher, right? Yeah. And then, once people get a voucher, to go out and to find a decent place where someone will actually rent to them is almost impossible. That's right. That's right. So whether if, you've got a disability or you're traumatized or, you've got mental health issues or whatever, and you're still expected to go out and solve that for yourself, it's a wonder.
A place to land.
Yeah, a place to land. And that, we see that here, people that are trying to live on Social Security income, if you can't find a place where you're only paying 30%, life is pretty impossible. So
how do you pay $1,400 a month when your SSI is $600?
Right. So someone that is, let's say, someone that's living at the village, who is on SSI or SSDI, how much, people make a contribution, right, to live there, a financial?
Yes.
How much?
Yeah, you said in your opening little speech that we all paid $50. It's recently now gone up to $75 because our bills keep going up.
Of course.
We have what they call a non-permeable water tax. We get taxed for the rain that hits the asphalt and goes into the storm sewers, even if it's not raining. And that has taken our bill from $300 every 2 months to like $1,700
a month.
Wow. Yeah. You have to change with the times in order to stay there. Right. I wonder also, how are you handling COVID at your site?
We're not handling it as well according to the standards that we're supposed to be following, but we have 0 cases. 0 people.
There is not a person in the village has gotten sick with COVID at this point, up till now.
Yeah, that's something to ponder.
And we're really not even paying attention to the distancing, to the masks. We do wash our hands and things like that. But other than that, in the village anyway, when we go somewhere, of course, we wear masks. But in the village, I don't wear a mask.
Right.
Buildings, we're supposed to be wearing masks.
Right.
I will also say that the county came out the other night and vaccinated, I think, 19 of us.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So because they had too many vaccinations and
they would go to waste if they didn't. Yeah, they got one. Yeah. So Lisa and I have been vaccinated.
First round. So
all right. Congratulations. That's wonderful.
I feel guilty though.
Well, and it's also part of it because we run the homeless shelter. We have people coming in from, and we have yet to close our doors.
Yeah.
We have COVID. We have kept our doors open. You're willing, anybody can come into the village and do the things that they've always done. We have taken no special precautions, nothing. We have just opened the gates and let them come. We'll take it as it comes, and we've got nothing.
And that's, that's another thing. It's, in our communities, we're really struggling to find volunteers to keep overnight warming shelters open because people are afraid of COVID, but here you all are, you have formed a village of people that have experienced the issue. And now you're taking care of other people that are sleeping outside, sleeping in tents, whatever. So it's amazing. People taking care of people.
People helping people is an amazing concept that really works.
Mm-hmm.
Leave the government out of it because they don't know how to do it. You know how to make a bowl of cereal for your son or your brother, your neighbor. And basically that's what it is. By helping other people pull their boots up, you get yourself pulled up along the way. It works like that.
Right. And in ways that work, right? You're not demanding everybody that comes to Dignity Village, pull themselves up by whatever they've got, and go out there and get a full-time job and go buy, go get that $1,500 a month apartment. You're not saying that. You're being realistic with people.
Right.
That's
Everybody
not
gets better
possible.
at their own pace.
That's right. At their own pace. Yeah, that's really, really beautiful. Another thing, when we were in Portland, we also saw the Women's Village in Kenton in the city. Yeah, can you tell us about that? Because you all are wonderful. You have a huge issue with so many people that are experiencing homelessness, and now the city is coming to you to say, "Hey, we need more Dignity Villages." But can you tell us about Kenton?
Well, Kenton Women was started up due to the Village Coalition. And Dignity Village, myself and individuals from the village were also involved in the Village Coalition. But we decided at the coalition that we wanted a village in every neighborhood of the city.
Right.
That's like 99 of them here or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kenton was the first one. And when we first approached the neighborhood association, they were like, no.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And then we started doing some door knocking and started talking to people about, dignity, and
people came and looked and saw and judged for themselves. And eventually they agreed with it and wanted it and still do.
So Kenton Women's Village is, I think, for 14 women.
Right.
And
at-risk women.
At-risk women that are from the Kenton neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Now, since then, we also have 3 what we call C3PO camps, which are
our COVID camps
to help the homeless. We have Agape Church has started their own encampment.
Agape Village.
Hazelnut Grove.
Right.
Now St. John's is just starting another one.
Mm-hmm.
And R2D2
and the Veterans Village.
Clackamas Vets Village.
So the village idea is starting to take on around here.
I'd say.
And, hopefully it'll sweep the nation.
Yes. And what about, we've talked some here about so many people that are living in their cars. If we had a safe parking, place, and then some wraparound services, for people would be better than, just moving your car throughout the night trying to, live in your car, right? What do you all know about that with the safe parking?
Can I take them outside?
Yeah, we could.
We could, yeah.
33rd, which is just the street over past our field over here, is full of RVs.
I call it Sunderland Estates. There are so many RVs out here now.
And they're leaving huge piles of messes. I know there is a group that is wanting to take an asphalted area down the street from us and move them all into there.
But so far, the Portland City has done nothing for any of the car campers.
But they are working towards that, especially with the new, not legislature, but the new codes that they're trying to put into effect.
But the wheels of bureaucracy move very, very, very slowly. So eventually it will happen, but we just got to keep the fight up.
Right. And I think, so these car campers, right? So many times these are working poor people, right? They're going to work, but then they got to come back and they're living in their car or their RV or whatever. And to have a safe place to park that thing, here, it might be the Walmart or the, I don't know, park and ride or whatever. People tell us stories.
I do. Something needs to be done. There needs to be somewhere that,
Yeah, I think it's a real necessity, and it's a huge issue until, at the federal level that we really get adequate federal funds, to provide affordable housing, right? Because the rents are just astronomical.
Yeah. It takes a while to build the affordable housing, though. You got to give time. It takes time.
That's right. Well said.
To get people in a village takes so much less money, and it's so much quicker than to try to build the affordable housing for everybody.
But it's a stepping stone. You can go from like a day camp where you go in and sleep during the day to the village to housing to, eventually it could be a stepping stone.
Right, right. When you all were experiencing homelessness, were there any like day shelters or any place where you could go during the day and feel safe or get access to resources?
I had a friend's house we could go to, but other than that, no. In Clackamas County, there wasn't at the time. There's the normal, everything that was downtown. It was downtown then, and is still there. But we didn't go downtown because the people that were down there. It's just not. It's different.
Yeah, we went to church for Sunday lunch,
Right.
and hit the library frequently, and we're both big readers. So that's where we hung out, between his friends and the library and the church.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there wasn't then, but the village is also a day use where people come in during the day and just sit down, get something to eat, talk to people.
Is that right?
Real life.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. In Zanesville, we have, we call it the Respite Center, and it's open 3 days a week. And it's a place for people that are unsheltered, or even people in the neighborhood who don't have anything to do, just to come and hang out, eat, maybe talk to somebody, get some resources, get some ideas. And it's really been a wonderful thing. But, even that is really difficult to get started. So often it's like, well, you have to have a mental health issue or something diagnosable to actually get a place to go. Mm-hmm.
Why? I ask myself why every time I hear someone say something like that. Why is that all? Why is so much necessary for one person to come in and sit down and watch TV and have a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Why
right.
does it take so much for that to happen? It's like they're saying, oh yeah, you can, but you're not going to do it because we're going to put up all the codes so you can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They block us at every step.
Right.
It seems like that to me.
Yeah, no, you've experienced all the barriers for a long time, and you talk to people all the time. What about people that are in reentry or returning citizens, people that are getting out of jail or prison?
We have the lowest barrier possible.
Mm-hmm.
Our barrier to get into the village is you must be 18 and over,
and you must be homeless.
Okay.
We don't even require names.
We don't check ID.
Come in with a nickname or a name that you don't, you use out on the streets.
Yeah.
We don't do background checks. Now, that does change if you have a child, or like your grandchild is going to come and stay with you.
Mm-hmm.
We do background checks, and the child must be supervised 24/7. Is only allowed to stay 3 days a month. And there's all kinds of other restrictions when that does happen. But that can happen.
Right. Right.
And
but you control that, right? It's not HUD or somebody telling you.
Live in the village.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's incredible. We've been trying to get a low barrier shelter in our community, and wow, people are just so afraid, of these kinds of structures that.
That's why I say go to the neighborhood association meetings, talk to the people, start talking to them about what you want to do, and then present it in a reasonable manner. And no reasonable request is really refused. You might have to convince them it's reasonable, but it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that there are felons here. Mm-hmm. We know in the past, and this is just because other people have been snooping into people's backgrounds.
We have sexual offenders.
We've had predators here. And that's the main reason we don't allow the children, for their safety.
Yeah.
But when somebody came up to me and said, oh, do you know such and such about so-and-so's background? I don't want to know.
Right.
Because this is their second chance. We don't care what happened 5 minutes ago before they crossed through our gates.
That's beautiful.
From the time they cross into our gates forward is what we worry about.
Right.
Yeah.
And if somebody has a safe place to live and has companionship or friendship throughout the village,
they may not offend.
They may not go back to their old ways. But so many of them don't have a chance of doing that because they're looking for a place to live. They're looking for this. They're looking for that. They have to impress, so they've got to go out and do everything. They got to incarcerated.
They're breaking their probation because they're using, because they're outside, because they're around children or whatever the case might be, and they can't really help it, and they're really doubly screwed sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're and we say in society that we believe in second chances, but
we don't give anybody one.
People that are returning citizens that have a record or whatever are barred from employment, from housing, from so many things. And your structure.
We wonder why they haven't changed.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And in your experience, I think what we've seen too, there are a lot of really good, you mentioned Agape, there are religious sponsored, but sometimes their requirements or their limitations, can also be difficult because it doesn't allow the adult to make the decision of
Right.
who they're living with
That's
or.
why in the village, we are the choice. And if those kind of strings are attached, we will decline.
Mhm, mhm.
And in fact, Kenton Women's Village is ran by Catholic Charities.
Is that right?
And it's deemed as one of their programs.
Right.
Mhm.
And they will kick you out if you're not following in their perfect steps for them.
You have to do what Catholic Charities wants at Kenton Women's. You can't do what you decide. If you make a rule, you have to take it to Catholic Charities and see that it's okay to do that before it gets implemented.
Yeah. So we really have to be careful on who's sponsoring, right? Because the limitations can set in pretty fast, and that may not serve the people that want to live there.
People who don't want those kind of things in their life from getting help, and you got to be able to help everybody.
Yeah, that's what we believe.
Come into the village as long as you're 18 and homeless. Anybody.
Yes. Yep. We have a question here. Is there help to get people documents like birth certificates and IDs and that kind of thing?
Yes. We have an organization here in Portland, Join, who helps a lot with that. They come through here all the time and talk to people who need IDs, who need all kinds of stuff. You can probably explain it better.
Yeah, Join is an organization that they're building. You can take showers, you can get your mail, you can use them as day use, but they have what they call an in-reach team, and they're going out to the different encampments and villages to help with housing and documents and all that type of stuff. And they will help finance those documents. And in fact, that's how I got my license back.
They'll even buy you a bus ticket home if you want to go home, wherever that may be.
And that's when I think the religious organizations can be most helpful, right? When they can address a specific need like that, rather than, proselytize or.
So usually.
Yeah. We want to make sure that people get to have choice, but we all know what we need to live. So that the churches and other charities can be very helpful in those kinds of things. Someone asked about. Go ahead, Scott.
I said they can be very restrictive also sometimes.
Yes, they can. Yeah. And for that reason, a lot of people don't want to be in shelters because it's too restrictive. Yeah. Now you two are doing great, and I can talk a mile a minute. So another question.
Always usually at the same time. So.
Yeah, that's what you've been together. So it says, are there links with community resources such as addiction, mental illness, food banks, etc.? You probably have all those connections.
Yeah, through Join, yeah. They bring out all the information to us. We have a whole board of phone numbers for things like that.
But before Join really got involved with the village, it was all peer supported and peer counseling.
Right.
And, if you found a way of getting into a housing setup first,
you told everybody
in the village your little way of getting into it. I know we do a lot of traveling to take people to the food boxes. And we have several people here that are signed up for weekly food boxes that get delivered.
Right.
So Join has been a huge help in many ways.
Very big help. Since we started, they helped us write our articles of incorporation, and they helped write the law that allows us to be here. So Join's been a big part of the village from the beginning.
Wonderful. We'll have to look them up. A couple more questions, and then I just want you two, if you could just talk a little bit about, what you would change about the Dignity Village, or maybe how you would have set it up differently, what you've learned, and then also, what is the future of the village. But a couple of other questions. I wondered about job counseling for people who'd like to work. What about job counseling?
Not really. No, that's the one thing that we are lacking.
Okay.
So everybody, the Craigslist to look for work and on the internet, we do have internet computers in our computer room that people go look at jobs for. So basically just like you would if you were looking for a job. Yeah,
right. And people I've stabilized some, so they maybe can navigate the process, on their own on the computer and not need, or reach out on their own to Job and Family Services or whatever. Yeah. One more question, and then if you wouldn't mind talking about, the vision for the for Dignity. One question here is, how does the community decide which organizations are allowed to come into the village and interact with the residents?
We have biweekly members meetings where we talk about everything till we're blue in the face before we do something. So
okay, beautiful.
Everything done in the village is talked about, and it's done by majority rules. Of course, you don't always win, you don't always lose, but at least everybody's on the same page. So
but we really don't stop any of the organizations that want to come in and help.
Right.
We don't stop them. We've had many different church groups that want to come in and hold services here. Well, we have many different people in many different religious denominations. So we kind of put a stop to that. You know, they can come in and do a quick little prayer for us, feed or whatever, but we really don't try to let the religious sect kind of come in and push their
The village isn't going to be their church. It's our church.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it's our home.
Well, yeah.
Right, but you call the shots, and that's the beauty of what you've got. You all understand the true meaning of democracy, and you govern yourselves democratically with your members' meetings, and you all decide what's going to happen there.
Right.
Yeah. Another question is, what is the average length of stay of people that are in the village, and do you have a sense of where people go when they leave?
3 to 5 years usually to get back on your feet and do something. And most people go to low-income housing.
Yep.
Not all, but most.
Yep.
We've had some people by choice move back out onto the streets.
Sure.
It doesn't happen very often, but it does.
We've had people who saved enough money while they were in the village to buy a home in a mobile park, you know, a double wide trailer, and that happens occasionally.
Yeah, right. Again, people get to make a choice of what they want to do. You're not babysitting. You're giving people a community to be in and then figure it out from there.
Yeah. We don't tell you what to do in the village. We let you look around and see what you want to do.
Right.
Which empowers you more anyway. So.
Yeah, I just love that. I mean, we love that the members, the village members are the people that govern it, and you don't need all this outside input or, I mean, you get support and you develop your boards and all, but you've done it, you're doing it. So, yeah, and it works. Clearly it works. You've been there for a long, long time. So as we close out, we'll give you a chance to continue on with your day. I'm sure that we'll be back in touch with you, and I'm sure members, people that are on the call tonight or in Facebook Live land, maybe reaching out to you with other questions that they may have. But you really have inspired us and given us hope for finding solutions in our local communities to create some of these short-term solutions, because as you said, the creation of buildings and affordable housing and traditional kind of housing takes a long time, and we don't have that kind of time. We've got too many people that are going to freeze to death on the sidewalk.
Right, and more coming once people have to start paying their mortgages and their rent again.
Yes, you're right.
The government, said you couldn't evict anybody during this time. But when that opens back up to where you can, there's a lot of people. How do you pay a year and a half's worth of mortgage all of a sudden 30 days? You can't do that.
That's right.
So it could be a real big problem in the future.
And we're bracing for it. I mean, we appreciate the extension of the moratorium, but it can't last forever. So it's going to come back down to the local communities. We are responsible for each other. So what is it that we are going to create? So maybe Lisa.
As your neighbor is for you.
Yeah, right. To do unto others and all that good stuff that we've been taught, right? It's all important, and we can do it. Lisa,
the religious thing aspect out of the Bible, and the Bible is a really good book to look at for as far as how to do things. Take the religion out of it, and just look at the way it is.
Yeah, right. The organized religion, maybe not so much, but the spirituality, we've all got that, right?
There you go. Absolutely.
Yep. So just in closing, Lisa, I'll ask you to go first. What as a person, in governance, what is the future of the village? What are the challenges that you are facing, and maybe some of your hopes for the village? And then Scott, I'll ask you to do the same.
Well, there's always going to be challenges. The village is pretty much a living, breathing entity all onto its own. One single person can change the whole dynamic of this place, and we've seen that time and time again, for the good or the bad. So each day could have its own challenges. Right now, we're sitting pretty steady, and that's a good thing. Financially, getting our water bill reduced back again would be a huge help. But what I would really like to see the village is finding our own piece of land, making it definitely an intentional community instead of a transitional campground. A temporary transitional campground is what our contract says we are.
But still doing what we're doing.
And still doing what we're doing. I know many of us here at the village, I've seen people who get their housing, find a place to live, start paying their rent there, and they're still here for almost 6 months, because it's really hard to move out of a community, a true community, into an apartment behind closed doors.
And unknown again, yeah.
So I think a lot of us do want to have an actual intentional community off the tarmac, maybe with some trees overhead, grass under our feet. So that's what my dream is. I know right now, a little shorter term is getting solar for everybody. And Scott was working on that for a big part of the first part of the tour. And kind of in closing words, just remember nothing about us without us, and that the homeless are people too. They could have been your neighbors yesterday, or it could even be you tomorrow. So many people are living day to day, paycheck to paycheck. And as we've all seen with COVID now, one single paycheck could make that huge difference, whether you're still in a house or whether you're not. But thank you for you guys caring and being here to see the village and to learn a little bit with an open mind. And if you do want to reach out with more questions, Leisha has my email address and contact information, so feel free to pass that out.
All right.
And I think I'm done.
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa, you're a wonderful tour guide. Boy, we'll send you that that recording. You can just use that. Yeah, you're a wonderful spokesperson. Just brilliant job. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
And Scott?
Oh gosh, what would I change? I don't think I would change anything about the village, because it takes what's going on to make the village what it is. You know, I believe that every choice in life brings us to where we are, and it's the same with the village. Everything we've done has brought us to where we are. So I don't know if I change anything. My vision of solar panel on every roof, power in every house. I mean, that's where I am right now. That's about it. I had a few words. I forgot the last one. So
I will also say, if you guys are looking at building villages, keep numbers no more than 75. Right. 60 is a really good number, or 50 is a good number. Okay. But if you get larger than that, the self-governance is going to be like a representative from this little group and a representative from that little group. It's not each individual voice.
Right. And look at our government. We know what happens when that happens. So keep it small. Small enough where you know who your leaders are.
Right. We've learned that, right? With schools and everything. You just don't want to get too big because it gets unwieldy, right? Well, Lisa and Scott, I mean, you are new heroes for me. I just am so impressed, and we are so inspired. Thank you. You've inspired us to come together, people that are directly impacted and city officials, to work for creative solutions. And you've given us a great model for something that we could strive for. So we will be in touch. Is there anything that the village needs immediately that we could contribute to?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
You were suggesting a gift card, and of course that would be much appreciated.
Okay.
What I always tell people when they ask, and I don't know if Lisa appreciates this or not, but I say look for a better need. Right now in the village, we are the 1% of the homeless.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember the Occupy movement. We are the 1%.
Yes.
So there's other people out there that need way more than we do. So
yes.
I always say look for another need. I think we don't really need as much as we might think we do anymore.
Yeah.
So it's better helped other, I don't know. I hate saying that, but it's true. That's what I feel.
You can all think about it. I'll be following up with you, but that's a really beautiful answer, and that just speaks to who you are and how you function. So we are, again, just inspired, and in our local communities, we're seeing people are becoming more and more visible. People that are experiencing homelessness, they're less inclined to hide, and I think that could be a good thing. But we just have to be able to stand with each other and say that we are all human beings, we're all brothers and sisters, and we have to work towards finding a solution.
Right. And you're not alone. Every city in the nation right now is going through the same things you are.
Yes.
Really, they are.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be, I think, 18 here tonight. And, we're thinking about our brothers and sisters that don't have a place to go tonight.
Yesterday.
Yep. All right. Okay. Well, Lisa and Scott, it's been a real pleasure. We've enjoyed it immensely. So glad that technology worked. And good night from Ohio. And who knows, there might be some Dignity Village, Ohio examples to showcase before too long.
Well, thank you for your time, and good luck, guys. And I guess we're saying bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. We'll be in touch. All right. Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, now I have to learn.
Yeah.
Crap. Nope.
Yeah, you do.
No, I didn't.